Okay, now we're going to learn the sum, sumif, and sumifs functions. These are functions that are used to aggregate data. So you can see here I've got a table courtesy of Microsoft that lists a lot of information, including the segment, the country, the product name, and the gross sales, the sales, and so on and so forth. If I want to take the sum of all of the sales, I can simply type in equals sum and then highlight the numbers that I'd like to sum. Close that formula off, hit enter, and you'll see the total sales were 118.7 million. Now, sometimes there could be a constraint in what you want to sum. So in this case, if I want to see the sales by segment, which is a single constraint, I can do the Sumif function as follows. Equals Sumif, and then I'll put the constraint that I would like to put in there. So in this case, I'm going to highlight the segments. I'm going to lock that in by pushing F4. And the criteria that I'd like to use to put in the constraint is this cell, government. And then I'd like to sum the sales as follows. And I'll lock that in as well. And I can close that off. So again, this is saying sumif. And then it's looking at all of the data in the segment column. And it's constraining these so that it only includes government, and then it's summing those in which the segment is government. I'm going to hit enter, and let me just format that quickly. And you can see 52.5 million of the sales were from the government segment. I'll copy that formula down, and all of these combined total 118 million, which is that total number up above that we saw. Now, lastly, you may have more than one constraint. You may have, in this example, 3 constraints: a constraint on the segment, on the country, and the product. In these cases where you've got multiple constraints, you can use the Sumifs function. And in fact, you can also use that with a single constraint as well. So I'm going to show you how to use it. You type in equals Sumifs. And in this case, rather than starting with the constraint, you start with the column that you'd actually like to sum. So I'm going to lock in the sales column, and then I'm going to put in the constraints. So the first constraint is segment. I'm going to highlight that, lock it in by pushing F4, and select the criteria as mid-market. Then I'm going to highlight the country column, lock that in, and use the criteria as Germany. And then lastly, I'm going to highlight the product column, lock that in, again by pushing F4, and put the constraint as Carretera. I'm going to close that formula off, hit enter, and I'll format that again. So in this case, there were 33,000 in sales for the mid-market segment in Germany for the Carretera product.